Welcome to the Nerd and Normie Podcast. I'm a big film nerd, Everett.
And I'm Emerald, and I'm engaged to a nerd.
Woo! Alright, on this week's episode, we will be covering Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, directed by Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson.
As well as The Little Mermaid, directed by Rob Marshall.
We will, for both of these movies, start with no spoilers, and then move into spoilers, and there will be time codes down in the description below. Alright, here we go.
Miles! Want to get out of here?
Alright, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. This movie, I honestly, initially, when it was first announced, not that I wasn't excited for it, because I love the first one, but I was worried that a sequel could not live up to how much I love Into the Spider-Verse. But then I started seeing some trailers and hearing some buzz about it, and I was like, okay, now I'm worried my expectations are too high. But this movie met and even exceeded those expectations. I loved this movie. It is incredible.
Yeah, I did not like the first one. I thought it was boring and predictable. I mean, it's a kid's movie, so it's supposed to be boring and predictable, but it didn't get to me. But I really liked this one. I thought it was funny. I thought it was intense when it needed to be. The art styles were really good. I really liked this one.
Yeah, talking about the art style, I know the first one was kind of, revolutionary, kind of groundbreaking, whatever, for doing that hand-drawn on top of 3D animation. Creating that real comic book style and using dot shading and stuff like that to really create that comic book feel. And this movie does that, but it really leans into having unique art styles for each Spiderverse they go to. In particular, when you spend time in Spider-Gwen's world, I loved it. It looked like watercolor paintings. It's constantly changing behind them to fit their mood. It's very interpretive and expressive as opposed to based in some sort of reality and just looks kind of comic booky. Like, she'll be, she's white with blonde hair with a bit of pink dye. Sometimes she'll just be completely blue and her room will be green, and then it'll change shots and suddenly she's purple and the room has gone pink because she's starting to feel a little bit better, and then something happens and the tones go darker, and the background is always like dripping almost and in slight motion and becomes real abstract. And I really liked the direction they went with both that world, and then just all the other worlds had a unique, fun feel, and it wasn't confusing or overdone or wasted, I think. Yeah, so this movie, just to kind of give a general overview, it basically picks up from the first movie, A Little Time Has Passed. And we start off actually catching up with Gwen and what she's been up to / how she got here and a bit more of her backstory. It's almost like a short film to start the movie about Gwen. And then we get back to Miles Morales and his vocal performance I was really impressed with. Like, he just sounded so much like a teenager, and I really, really enjoyed how he portrayed that role. And so basically he has this new kind of villain who thinks he's his nemesis because he's back from his past, the Spot, and he's in the trailers and stuff, and it just kind of all unravels from there. Of course, he ends up in the Spiderverse, and Spider-Man 2099 is there, and he's really intense and dramatic, and there's also hundreds and hundreds of other Spider-Men all across these different worlds and stuff. And basically Miles Morales is at odds with the way these Spider-Men are kind of running things at the moment. He wants to do it his own way, kind of stuff. And there's a little bit of like a cocky teenager against the establishment at times, but other times, is he right? Is he wrong? And it's really, they do a great job. Similar, I compared this movie to Everything Everywhere All at Once, just in terms of innovative visuals and great multiverse storytelling. And similar to that movie, it really focuses down on these personal choices that Miles has to make, as opposed to just being about crazy worlds and fun Spider-Men popping out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think this one, the reason I didn't like the original is because they're doing so many multiverse things now that it was just really predictable and not very, like, obviously the art style was unique, but it was pretty much a straightforward story. I feel like this one does focus a lot on, like, choices and morality, like he was saying, and I found the story to be not, like, unpredictable, but just, like, surprising along the way, and, like, the choices that everyone had to make were surprising because they were so human, even in this, like, fantastical world.
Yeah, a strength of this movie, which is always a good idea for movies and is usually what people hate about bad movies, all of the characters make logical decisions and feel like humans. You don't ever, even people who are bad guys, good guys, gray area guys, like, everyone makes the decision that makes sense for them and their character. It's never just, I'm evil for the sake of being evil, and I'm going to be good and make the right call every time because that's who I am. It really does a good job of fleshing these people out and making them make mistakes and make good choices, bad choices, hard choices, choices we don't even know what the consequences will be yet. And that just always works really well for a movie. But yeah, other than that, I gotta say this is easily my favorite movie I've seen so far this year. One of my favorites of the last 2 years. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Menu last year were really fantastic, but this one for me is really rewatchable, and I am excited to see where it all goes next. But now we're gonna head into spoilers. Alright, here are spoilers. Spoilers for Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Please skip ahead if you do not want to hear them, and I highly recommend that you do if you have any interest in seeing this movie. Go in blind.
Yep.
Alright, here we go. Where to start?
So this follows at the beginning Gwen as she is, being a troubled teen, and her dad is after Spider-Gwen, basically, and is trying to capture her because he thinks that she killed Peter Parker in her universe. And she ends up teaming up with this other team of Spider-Men who basically go universe to universe to capture these anomalies that are threatening their universes, basically.
It's kind of similar if you've seen Loki. The premise of Loki is anomalies and variances where the timeline gets broken and someone appears in the wrong place. They go, they fix them, and get them back to where they're supposed to be, so that nothing goes wrong with the quote-unquote canon timeline.
Yep. And her dad finds out that she's Spider-Gwen right when she's about to leave with the other people, and she doesn't want to face that, so she basically runs away. And then it switches over to following Miles again.
Yep. And he's, still himself, late to everything, trying to juggle 15 million things and not letting anyone help him, except kind of his friend, roommate at his dorm. But his friend, roommate does not want to really be a part of anything, just wants to play video games, so not, the best guy to recruit as your helper.
Yep.
And yeah, so he fights the Spot, who it turns out back in the first movie, he hit him with the bagel, the famous scene when the guy gets hit in the head with the bagel and says bagel. But then also is there doing experiments when they're using the collider, or Kingpin's trying to get that going and stuff. And so when it explodes, it hits this guy, the Spot, and essentially infects him with multiversal holes. And so it starts out there just kind of transport, very classic like portal. You throw it one place, it allows you to reach through and instantly come out the other spot. But as he kind of learns a bit more, he falls inside of himself, and unlocks the multiverse and is able, because he's, a crazy multiverse scientist guy, to enhance this, and decides he's going to universe trot and gain power and go everywhere there's another reactor that he can steal even more power, so that he can come back and absolutely ruin Miles' life and destroy everything about him, because nobody wants to look at this weird Spot man anymore, and he's had everything taken away from him.
Yep. And so Gwen is sent to Miles' universe to stop the Spot and capture him because he's now an anomaly. And she pretends like she was there to visit Miles, and they hang out for a minute, and he ends up following her back to the Spider-Man warehouse where all the Spider-Men are from every multiverse who's been helping.
And the whole time, everyone's like, oh, yeah, Miles, we don't want you here. Like,
yeah.
And they're coming up with excuses. Oh, it's a small team. Then they get there, and there's thousands of them. Oh, well, they're all part-time, and oh, there's this, and oh, you know, I didn't want to bother you, and so it's like, you know something's up, but you don't necessarily know exactly what it is yet and why Miles is so important to all of this. And I will say, that is one thing. They usually do these things and stuff like this where it just happens to be because they're the main character, they're the one hero tied up in all of this. They did such a good job of making it feel important that it's Miles and that he is not just the main character, therefore he's relevant. He is relevant, and therefore he's the main character. And that is because you find out he is the original anomaly. The guy who becomes the Spot was doing multiverse experiments and brought over a spider from Universe 42. And that's the spider that bites Miles, and that's why Peter Parker ends up dying in that universe in the first movie. Now Miles Morales is having this kind of retrofitted canon Spider-Man life, and why he doesn't quite fit in with everyone else and work out quite the same way. And later in the movie, to just jump ahead real quick, we end up visiting Earth 42, and it looks very similar. And at first I was like, something's up, and I know it said it sent him to 42, so is this the wrong world? And then I kind of forgot that I was thinking that, and was just like, oh yeah, he's back home, blah blah blah. And then he's like, I'm Spider-Man, to his mom finally, and she goes, oh, who's Spider-Man? Like, what? That means nothing to me. He doesn't exist in this universe. And then you find out he's in Universe 42, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
to go back. Before he finds out that he's the anomaly, they go to a different Spider-Man universe, and he ends up stopping a canon event. So,
and was it Mumbai,
yeah.
Mumbai, Manhattan. It's a India-inspired Manhattan, which was super fun, and the Spider-Man there was
adorable, so fun,
cute,
so
and
festive.
So fun.
But yeah, so he stops a canon event and saves the police captain in that universe, and that's also trouble because that helps unravel things.
Yeah. And so that universe starts to kind of collapse in on itself, and they're trying to contain it and whatever. But again, we find out, like, Gwen, similar to how when she went to visit him, she's not really supposed to talk to him or help him or really reveal these things to him, but she can't really kind of help herself. There's a moment right before he saves the captain that she's like, no, like, we gotta go. And he's like, oh, no, you're just trying to protect me. I've got this. And he goes and saves the captain. And she knows that this is going to potentially destroy this entire universe, but he doesn't. And so then later, when he finds out all of this stuff, he's like, wait, you were trying to stop me so that that guy could die instead of stopping me because you were trying to protect me. And that just is a whole, again, like, it's the classic kind of question. And Spider-Man 2099 literally says this to him, like, is one life worth the entire universe? You know, is saving that one police captain worth potentially destroying the whole universe?
Yes, and in this movie you find out that Miles' dad is about to be promoted to police captain, and while he's fighting the Spot, he has this, like, premonition of his dad dying trying to save a child, which is a canon event.
Yeah. And so, naturally, teenage Miles Morales, who is slightly cocky and always things kind of go his way and he's able to make it work out and whatever, decides, no, I'm not letting my dad die. Fair enough. I don't think I would do that.
Yeah.
Love you, Dad.
So he, outruns and outwits all of these Spider-Men.
Which was super fun. So he gets them all to chase him or whatever, and they're all like kind of making, what's your plan? You have no plan. You have no idea what's going on. And then he's like, well, I did lure all these Spider-Men out here, and then he just jumps off and is able to get back to the special lab.
Yeah,
HQ.
because in the HQ, there's this machine that reads your DNA and will send you back to wherever your home is from that DNA, which is what they're doing with all the anomalies so that they're not in the other universes anymore. And so he does it on himself, but it reads the spider's DNA and not his, so that's how he ends up back in the other universe. And in that one, his Uncle Aaron's still alive because there's no Spider-Man, but not only that, his Uncle Aaron is not the Prowler. He is.
Yeah, and so the movie ends on a huge cliffhanger, which I did not know was coming. You heard somebody kind of mention that there was a cliffhanger-y ending in the lobby.
Well, I didn't know if it was that movie, but I saw these two teens leaving, and they go, I just wish it didn't end on a cliffhanger. And I'm like, I don't think they're that upset about Fast and Furious, so it must be.
Yeah, and so yeah, basically he gets captured by his Uncle Aaron, and strapped to a punching bag or whatever, and he thinks this whole time that Aaron's the Prowler, and then the actual Prowler comes out and reveals himself to be this universe's Miles, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
It just says to be continued.
Oh, another thing that does happen before the ending is Gwen goes back to her world, and she finds out that because her dad is also a police captain who should be dying according to canon, but he quits the force. So this kind of opens new things, I feel like, for the upcoming movie to be able to break canon events, basically, because if he's not police captain, he doesn't have to die.
Yeah, and it is very much this clearly sets up for this next movie the idea of like, does it have to be just because it always has been, you know? And so it really is going to be so interesting to see this next movie, how he gets out of Earth 42 and away from himself, and how he ends up hopefully saving his father, or all of that kind of stuff. Apologies if you can hear our cat in the background. He is screaming like a madman to get outside.
Yeah. He's very upset because we don't allow him to go outdoors because we want him to be safe, and he wants to explore and cause mayhem.
So apologies for that. But back to Spider-Man. Yeah, I can't wait now for this sequel. I am so excited to see where it goes. I think also to talk more about Spider-Man 2099 and his whole role in this, he's so bitter and serious and a very grumpy Spider-Man as compared to everyone else, because he got this chance or came across this universe and was able to live his life and insert himself when another version of him had like died or whatever, and grow up with his kid and raise his child and all of this stuff, and it ended up destroying that whole universe, and he and Peter B. Parker from the first movie kind of witnessed this whole destruction. And I kind of wonder if I'm not quite sure, but could it have been Peter B. Parker's world in some capacity, or how he was involved in that? I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll explain that better in the second movie, because it's not his world, because he goes home to Mary Jane, but some reason Peter B. Parker's there and sad about this event having happened. And yeah, so he's, witnessed the entire destruction of the universe because he selfishly wanted time with his kid. Selfishly, I say in air quotes, because, again, fair enough.
Yeah.
And so he's now laser focused on making sure no other universes get destroyed and that he saves everyone's lives. And so he takes this insanely seriously, as you would. And that's why he basically can't comprehend that Miles is dumb enough to go back and try and stop this, because he's like, if you stop it, your whole universe dies, and then not just your father dies, everyone is going to die. And Miles is like, no, I'm Spider-Man, it's all gonna work out. And so he's gonna go back and try and stop it.
Yeah. We have a few theories. We think maybe because he wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man because he got bit by accident and it should have been Peter Parker. Maybe he doesn't have to live the canon life, but yeah, we'll see.
Or maybe, as we mentioned a little bit ago, Gwen her father stepping down kind of sidesteps canon and creates new timelines and stuff. And maybe she'll learn something that is able to help resolve this whole situation. But yeah, I think the only thing about this movie that I did not love is there's a few too many multiverse cameos and a little too long. Particularly, it was fun to see Donald Glover for a moment, especially because he's live action. And he's Uncle Aaron in the like MCU movies. Vaguely, he's supposed to be. We've never really spent a lot of time with him, but he's there as that character. And so he pops up in this and is like, haha, I'm here. And then because fans love him and all of that, he then, even like 10 minutes later, comes back again on screen for just like a second. And I'm like, all right, this is a little much. And there's a lot of references to Andrew Garfield because there's been like a whole renaissance with No Way Home, everyone loving that Spider-Man again.
It even shows a clip of that movie with him. Yeah, so it's just like a little, there were not too many moments of it, but a few moments where I was like, this is already a 2-hour and 15-minute movie, 2-hour 20-minute movie, and it's for kids, and we're throwing in all these in-jokes for the parents. Like, there's enough jokes and comedy stuff that works on its own that we don't need those moments to keep the parents happy, per se. And so I think just like being a little more focused on this movie could have been a bit better. But really, that's my only kind of complaint about it, I think. I really liked Spider-Punk guy.
Oh, yeah, Spider-Punk.
He was fun.
There was also a lot of cameos to the game stuff, and like you can play as Spider-Punk, and the game version of him's there in the game's animation style of Spider-Man. And again, there's a lot of the featured Spider-Men are from either games or recent movies, which is fair enough, again, because you don't want to either invent new ones or pull from very obscure stuff all the time. But that did get a little old. But yeah, Spider-Punk was very funny. My question, how old is he? How old is Gwen? Miles is 15.
Miles is 15. Gwen is older than Miles because she always talks about how he's just a kid. But he has a crush on her. Yeah,
and I'm always worried because she does seem a bit older. There's lots of references to her staying over at Spider-Punk's universe, and she leaves her sweater and toothbrush there and stuff. Like, clearly she's staying over.
But it's not like he really cared about her. No. I don't think that they had anything romantic. I think that maybe she's his Gwen, like the way that Miles loves Gwen.
Yeah, I could definitely like 100% see that. And just like, again, she's running away and has no universe at the moment.
And she drums in his band.
So like, again, it makes sense that she would crash in his universe in a completely like platonic friend way. I'm just like, there were a few hints and stuff to kind of make you, from Miles' perspective, think it's romantic. And then also between Miles and Gwen, there's a little hint at potential future romance. There's a little bit of like age gappiness that I really hope they handle well.
I hope Miles ends up with that cute cameo computer nerd girl. She was so cute, and sweet. He had a crush on her, it looked like.
They kind of
made eyes.
Yeah, they connected there for a minute,
and then she helped him. Yeah,
she helps him get away in the end. Like, she has a moment where she could stop him from getting to Earth 42. And she's like, I'm gonna delay here for just 5 seconds so he can get away and do his thing.
Yeah.
So I could see like in the next movie them really blossoming and him just being friends with Gwen, which again is what I hope happens, but I worry that they'll just kind of sidestep the age thing and just be like, yeah, they're nebulous. He's 15 and she's
17.
She's 17 and Spider-Punk's only 18.
18 or 19, yeah.
It was only 2 years. It's not that weird. And I don't want to think about any of that or deal with any of that. But yeah, no, this is truly one of the most visually stunning films of the last 5-10 years. And that includes the first Spiderverse, which has some incredible shots and really awesome animation. I think this one pushes the bar. They're more comfortable in what it is. They maybe have a few too many upside down shots, but I love upside down shots, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, it is It is well worth a watch.
All right, well, I don't know why I'm asking, but what would you rate this?
This is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Shocking.
I loved it. I cannot wait to watch it again. I don't know if I'll be able to wait for it to come to streaming. Even if you don't come with me, I might just go by myself some morning.
He also just really likes this kind of animation. He also rated Puss in Boots: The Last Wish a 10 out of 10.
Also a phenomenal movie.
It's cute, yeah.
They're great movies. I like, and Pixar's trying with Elemental, but I like, yes, we can do really realistic looking stuff, but that's not interesting. What's interesting is the fact that animation can do stuff you can't do in live action. So instead of just trying to recreate a live action movie, use your medium and push the boundaries and let the artists create art, and they really do that fully in this movie. Yeah. And so of course I'm gonna love it.
I'd give this one maybe an 8, which is good, because the first one I'd give maybe a 3.
Which is wild. I just, the one thing that movie isn't is boring, because it's nonstop funny action, cool, and I think it's just as personal and just as, like, it's also a 10 out of 10 for me, and I just can't comprehend it. But whatever, we're not talking about that one right now. We'll have to continue that conversation after we stop recording. But yeah, that wraps up Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Seriously, go watch this movie. I've said that a few times already this year, but there really have been some great movies. And yeah, we are now going to move on to The Little Mermaid.
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
All right, so my pick this week was The Little Mermaid. It is directed by Rob Marshall and stars Halle Bailey, Jonah Hauer-King, and Melissa McCarthy. I didn't know this till after we watched it. Apparently Everett thought it was going to be bad and didn't want to go. But we both liked it.
Yeah.
It was cute. I think it was good for one of the live-action remakes.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't excited for this. I haven't seen all the live-action remakes. I've seen a few of them. I've seen parts of other ones. I haven't really enjoyed any of them.
Me either.
And so The Little Mermaid, to begin with, is already not one of my favorites, and that might be part of why I enjoyed this one. I wasn't as familiar with the story. I haven't seen it 10, 20 times in my childhood and on. So, like, there were some potential, like, twists and turns that just follow the original story, but for me, were kind of sort of new. I knew the gist of the story and what happens, but, like, I didn't remember, and this is not really a spoiler because, again, this is based almost entirely on the movie, but that when she gives up her like voice and mermaidness, that she goes mute. Totally forgot that happened. And so then she goes mute. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe they're actually just gonna have her be silent for half of this movie. And it worked great. It was fun.
Yeah. I loved Melissa McCarthy's casting as Ursula. I think she was the most accurate from cartoon to live action.
I also think Prince Eric, but she does not.
I didn't think he was going to be cute. I thought he was boring looking, and I really had a crush on Prince Eric growing up, but he was really cute once the movie actually started and we saw more of him.
Yeah, I loved him.
Yeah, but Melissa McCarthy was perfect to me. I think she sang the songs perfectly. I think her mannerisms were perfect. I really liked her as Ursula. Yeah, Eric was cute. I think him and Halle Bailey had
really good chemistry.
Good chemistry.
Yeah, their romance is believable. It's not just like, I'm on land now. Ooh, I see guy. He cute. I love.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense. And I think part of that, from, again, what limited I remember, I don't even remember Prince Eric ever really talking or being in the movie in the original. And he is far more of a character. And they spend a lot of time with him. He gets his own song.
He gets a backstory.
Yeah, you actually learn who he is, and it matches up really well with who Ariel is. And so put them together in these situations, and of course they're going to kind of develop feelings for each other. And it's not like instant, oh my god, we're so in love. It actually like kind of grows and is cute and is fun.
Yeah. And then Ariel, I think she had a pretty singing voice. I did not think that she was the best actress in it.
I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was really strong. I think part of what I really liked is if you strip this back and actually look at the lines she was asked to say and the things she was asked to do, a lot of them are kind of dumb and very exposition-y, and you don't feel that. And I think that's the mark of a really strong actor and a really good emerging talent here. I think she has a very bright future. Again, I don't think anyone in this movie is like Oscar-worthy performances, best thing ever. But for a Disney live-action remake, you can't ask for much more of someone being asked to tell you the backstory of who mermaids are and why she wants to go do these things and say these goofy lines that are from the original that if she doesn't say them, even though they might slightly be out of context, fans might get upset.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the writing, but there was just a lot of moments that I feel like could have had any emotion. And again, it's a kids movie. So, you know, maybe that's why they're not trying to make it these Oscar-worthy moments, but it was just they kind of fell flat for me on an emotional level. But that could have also been because her dad was just...
Javier Bardem, one of the most talented actors out there working today. Love him in so many great roles. He is awful.
Yeah, he is not good.
I think he's out of his depth. I don't really remember him being in too many big blockbusters, green screen, fast, horrible CGI monstrosities. And 90% of his body is CGI. All his scenes are underwater, so all of the backgrounds are CGI. He's full digi-double replacement stuff. It's not easy for an actor, particularly one who comes from a background of not doing these types of movies or had like a kind of in-betweeny movie. He's used to just acting with the other actors across from him, not by himself on a green screen talking to a crab who's not there.
Yeah. And
it shows. It's either he just doesn't feel comfortable and they didn't give him enough time to get comfortable or whatever, or he was just like sick. $10 million paycheck or whatever they paid him for this movie. I'm just going to cash that in. I'm going to show up on a green screen set for 4 days and just run through these lines as fast as I can and get home and buy a new car.
Because, like, obviously the talent is there. Like, he can make himself cry for the scenes when he needs to, but there's just no, like,
he hits
emotion.
All the notes of, like, okay, you need to be yelling and then go soft and cry. And he yells and then he's soft. And he cries. And
on paper, it seems like he'd be perfect for it. Like, he looks like King Triton.
Yeah. But
he doesn't feel like King Triton. So it could have been that I felt like Ariel fell flat. Because it's also hard to judge her acting when the rest of the movie she can't speak.
Yeah.
So all of her talking lines, for the most part, are with Javier Bardem. And he's... Yeah. It's rough.
Again, kind of in this situation, acting opposite Flounder, Scuttle, Sebastian, all these animated, fully CG characters. So she's just alone on a rock on a green screen saying lines by herself. And then they take her voice away. And physical acting without like being able to use your words and stuff is the hardest part and what sets, you know, the top of the top away from everyone else. And not that, again, she's bad or won't ever reach that, but she's young and learning how to act. And so it's not necessarily the world's greatest silent performance. Yeah. But when you look at what she's being asked to do, I think she does a commendable job. And given a more normal movie, could do a really great job.
Yeah, I don't think she's per se a bad actress. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I just think... this was a tough role and it wasn't the best performance. It was like if you saw something like at a theater, you know, like they're obviously skilled, they got the part, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see, you know, I think they deserve an Oscar. It's just like, oh yeah, that was a good show. Woo woo.
Yeah. outside of Javier Bardem, who again I do love, but not in this role, I think my biggest complaint is the lack of consistency in this movie in terms of the commitment to, is this going to be full fantasy, bright colors, flashy, or is this going to be serious drama, intense movie? You know, it starts and everyone's in dirty uniforms and on a gray sky in the ocean and dramatic and super serious.
Pirates of the Caribbean vibes.
Yeah, it's very Pirates of the Caribbean. And then it flips and we're underwater and, you know, it starts where everything's gray and, you know, the seaweed's all really dark and the stones are all black and intense and stuff, even in the kingdom and all of that.
Yeah, you almost can't even see, like, the mermaids and stuff.
And then the mermaids swim through and they're all, like, neon, spotted, crazy stripes, crazy designs, and they look really out of place for the environment they built. But then, like, 10 minutes later, you sing Under the Sea, and it's fully bright, like everything is super clear. All of the animals are crazy bright, fun colors. There's fantasy octopi that are like, you know, have these like blue fading to purple and crazy colors and neon and stuff that she's riding around on, and like really fun and bright. And then we cut back to another scene, and then the scene after that is like on ground and all of the grass is like dying and muted, but they're in the Caribbean. Like, it can be bright. The one thing the Caribbean's known for is like its blue oceans. All of these oceans are really dark.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like this movie would have been better. I think it would have been really bad if they committed fully to the drama and treated this like the most serious, intense movie of all time. I think that would have gone poorly. But I can see why they were a little afraid to go the full color, fun, bright route, because you want it to be taken seriously. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. Like, I think a good middle ground is like a Finding Nemo type ocean, where it's not in your face bright, everything's neon, but it's not pitch black in every shadow.
Yeah. Another thing that was odd is that they did try. A little bit of the acting was like that too, where it was like they couldn't decide if this was a kid's movie or if it was like a serious movie. And there's the classic super famous scene where Ariel goes up on the rock. Everyone knows it, everyone's seen it, whatever. In this movie, she's like almost stalking them.
Yeah.
And she's like scuttling across the rock like a it's literally crawling. Like Samara crawling out of the well in The Ring. Like, it's horrifying. And she's like crawling across the rock like this before like she gets up and the wave hits her in the classic scene. And terrifying.
I think this again is one of those moments, and it kind of speaks to the whole kind of issue with this film, is translating something that was animated into live action. Ariel moves across a rock and the water hits up behind her. Works in animation because you can make her move however you want. Draw it to look good. You cannot make an actual human slide across the rock and then have water spray up behind them and have it look like they're not some creepy, weird, scuttling person. Like, it just doesn't...
It was so scary,
yeah.
though.
And I think that happened a lot for me in this movie, where it's like, I know this is based, and they just like, I think they struggled with that balance of recreating the scene to work for live action versus just shot for shot recreating it. In another area it kind of struggles, like Flounder. Why in this world, why can't we have a fish who's yellow all over? Why did he need to realistically have the light bottom of what fish typically have so predators can't see him, and faded stripes on his sides, and just a little yellow on top with a little bit of his hair? Like, this is a world of mermaids and octopi lady and all of this crazy stuff. Why can't we have a yellow fish who's just a bit brighter and whose mouth moves a little bit more expressively?
You know, I didn't actually have too much of an issue with Flounder and Sebastian and
Sebastian
Scuttle
was fine, and I think Scuttle was fine. I don't know, like, if it was the performances behind them that made them a little bit more feel alive, or the fact that they just were in it a bit more and could move themselves, as opposed to, like, Flounder can swim, but Scuttle was flying all over the place, and Sebastian's coming on land and grabbing stuff and jumping places, and Flounder just kind of swims around and is there.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's all we really have to say non-spoiler edition. There's not too many spoilers that we're gonna give, but just in case, we'll give a warning.
Yeah, you've all seen The Little Mermaid, I'm sure.
And if you haven't,
go watch the original.
Go watch
first.
the original.
But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed myself. I had way more fun than I was expecting to. I was not looking forward to this particularly, and yet I got caught up in the story, and it's fun, and it's great for the family, and gonna be a blast.
Oh yeah, the girl in the row in front of us was cackling the whole time. She was laughing and laughing and laughing. She was having the time of her life.
She was probably like 4, 5 years old.
Yeah, I would say probably 3 or 4.
Maybe,
she was a little one.
Yeah, I will say at the end it does get a little intense, and the mom had to dive across to try and cover her eyes a few times.
Yeah. But nothing bad. It's the same as the cartoon, but, you're translating that into
it's
reality.
Again that thing of, like, harm happening to a cartoon character is traumatic. Harm happening to an actual actor is a little bit more intense because it feels more realistic. So, I'm sure your child, the kind of movies they can handle. Alright, spoilers for The Little Mermaid. Skip ahead to, well, I guess that's the end of the podcast, so enjoy. But yeah, here we go. Spoilers.
So the first thing I'm gonna say is that Ariel's costume sucked. It sucked bad. She was wearing a spandex, like, tube top for her shirt, when all the other mermaids had, like, these cool makeup swim tops, like, shell that scales, whatever, that morphed
looked like
into
they're
their skin.
part of them, and, like, they're not wearing a costume.
Super cool, super fun. Don't know why they gave Ariel the worst costumes in the movie.
Yeah, my guess is just because she has so much more screen time, they wanted a costume that's easier for her to get in and out of instead of making her sit in makeup for 6 hours every morning and then acting for 10 and then getting out of makeup. But it looks
bad.
Pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's not too much different with this movie versus the cartoon. They do kind of make sense of, I know a lot of people had an issue casting for Ariel because she does not look like the cartoon, but Triton talks to all 7 of his daughters, and all 7 of them take place in a different sea, and all of them are the race of whatever sea that they are inhabiting.
Yeah.
And Ariel lives right under the Caribbean. Obviously, she's gonna look Caribbean.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. Just getting that out of the way because people are stupid.
Fair.
But yeah, so she does have her sisters in it. I wish they would have been given more screen time at the end when all the mermaids come out. Her sisters aren't even there, ? Which was weird.
Some of them were.
One of them was.
At least. I thought I recognized like 2 or 3.
Maybe, but not my favorite one, and it bummed me out.
So the mermaids show up all at the end to, like, send them off at their wedding, and it's just, like, out of nowhere, they're all of a sudden like, and we'll be here with you too. And then, like, 50 mermaids just appear on rocks next to these guys, and they've had, lifelong blood feuds or whatever, and they're all just like, cool. Nice to see you here. And it's just like, I get what they're going for.
Yeah, because now that, Prince Eric and Ariel have married, that island and the mermaids now have, like, a bond, whatever, and Triton's getting over his fear and he's letting the mermaids come to the surface, and they're trying to do that without having to super explain it to the audience. But it's weird and creepy, and they look so out of place and awkward and horrible, especially because everything that's been on land so far has been so dull, like Everett was saying with the color grade. And then these, like, neon, fantastical, hot pink merman are just flapping their little fins on rocks, and it's weird looking.
Yeah. I think the only thing you can really spoil about this movie is, I guess, Prince Eric's backstory, because it's pretty much the only major difference.
Yes. But with his backstory, I feel like it gives Ariel and Eric a reason to be together, which they don't have in the original.
Yeah. So like he was orphaned in a shipwreck when he was really young, and the queen of this castle takes him in and raises him as her own. And he just has this love of adventure and wants to see the world and reopen their trade ports.
A fascination of the sea.
Oh, crazy. And so, you know, he's out on an adventure at the start of the movie, and he doesn't want to go home. He's having the time of his life. He's seeing all these cool things and discovering all these treasures and trading with all these people and meeting these different cultures and just having an amazing experience. And then he gets home, and they're almost to home, and they crash on some rocks, and he nearly dies.
Yeah, this is where Ariel starts her fascination with him. You know, she watches him, and he's so kind and so sweet. The rest of them are like, not mean, but they're just like, he's standoutish because he cares about people.
Yeah, he's going around making sure everyone's having a good time, helping people with their chores, and you know, he's not a prince who's just standing on the bow of the ship looking out over the ocean. He's actually helping the crew and trying to, you know, then when they start to crash, he's right there in the thick
saving
of it
them,
and saving the dog, Max.
And Ariel's listening to him explain how he doesn't want to be the prince because he wasn't born into it, and he wants this adventure and stuff. And her being the princess of the sea who also wants this adventure and has this fascination on land, she kind of zeroes in on him and is like, yep, that's the man for me. He gets it. And that makes sense, you know? And Ariel ends up saving the dog and helping him swim over to the boat, which is really cute. And then she saves Eric, and he immediately falls in love with her because...
And they do a good job of actually, you know, I don't know if it's even mentioned in the original. Again, I don't really remember it, but like, it's the kind of, if you think about it, the logical conclusion of what's might be happening.
Yeah, but they explain it in this one.
But they very make sure you understand.
She sings her siren song to save him, and in doing that, that's why he's so fixated on her.
Yeah.
And like in love with her, because she's a siren, and that's what they do. So it makes sense.
And I think something they did that's really smart is he's unconscious when she's singing to him, and he's slowly coming to, and he kind of sees the figure of a woman, and then people come to rescue him, so she runs away. So he never actually saw her, and he just becomes obsessed with the girl.
Voice. Yeah, the
and
girl
the
with
voice. And he's desperate to find her. So then when she trades her voice and everything to be on land with Ursula, she can't speak and he can't hear her voice, and so they then actually get to know each other, and she's curious and wanders into like his study, and he gets to show her all these things he's collected, and she's genuinely interested, and so they just like go have a great couple days together just getting to know who they are, even though she can't speak. It's not like she can't speak and he just tells her everything that is. She's actually out in the world meeting people, experiencing things, and he's watching her explore the world the way he likes to, and so they fall for each other.
Ursula, I don't know if this happens in the original because I haven't seen it in a while, but Ursula also adds something into the spell that she puts on Ariel, where Ariel, no matter how hard she tries or no matter who tells her, she can't remember that she has to kiss Eric within these 3 days. So anything romantic that happens between them feels genuine. It's not like her being like, oh, I have to kiss him so I can be a person. It's like, oh, I want to kiss him because we like each other.
Yeah. And, so, and then Ursula, you know, in the end of the movie, she comes back and she's stolen Ariel's voice, so she's able to sing and use the siren song, and he just 180 flips. I'm in love with this new random girl who showed up. And what was his name? The, like, advisor guy, is, Sir Grimsby, is like, excuse me, you were head over heels for this other girl. What is happening here? So he knows something's up. But yeah, so, you know, he falls for this new woman, and then Ariel comes and smashes it and gets her voice back, and he realizes, and then they go to kiss, but oh no, the sun's
already set.
So she turns
And then we
back.
have more scary crawling across the ground.
More squirming around. Lots of shimmying in this movie, both in music numbers and not.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that there was a lot of complaints that the girl who plays Ursula when she's on land, Vanessa, that she has a better voice than Halle Bailey. And also, you guys are stupid if you think that, because it's Halle Bailey's voice. That's the whole thing, is that she sings with Ariel's voice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, and so then they go into the ocean. Eric goes to try and be with her or whatever. She has to fight Ursula. And then this is where the two kind of traumatic moments for children happen. First up, King Triton gets shot with his own trident.
No, he gets electrocuted by the eels.
Oh, I thought it was she shot him with his trident thing. I thought they'd already killed the eels at this point.
Oh.
Anyway, he gets hit with something.
He gets electrocuted, and it, like, shows all the bones in his face, and he just slowly disintegrates. Like the way that they would, like, if you get electrocuted in a cartoon, you know?
Yeah, and then, like, his eyes roll back, and his skin shrivels up, and he just fades down into the abyss.
Yeah, super spooky.
Yeah, very intense, very Mother Gothel in Tangled vibes, but with a real actor.
person, yeah.
So again, it adds that level of intensity, and then they fight Ursula in the big swirling thing, whirlpool, and of course, as we know, she gets impaled by a ship at the end.
Ariel steers the ship in this one, not Prince Eric, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Ariel spins the wheel because she saw Prince Eric do that before to steer the ship and stuff. She's like, I know how this works, and does it. Sends the ship right at Ursula. And it does the thing, and I thought it was going to be like, oh, okay, this is a good way to get around stabbing Melissa McCarthy, who also, real quick, when she goes giant, looks creepy. Like, her skin goes all gray, and they, like, add gills to her face, and, like, it doesn't look like just large Melissa McCarthy, which is probably for the best, because that could have looked pretty silly. It already looked kind of silly, but anyway, so she steers the ship, and it, like, shows the point of the ship coming right at her, cuts to her face, big gasp, and then cuts wide, and there's, like, lightning going on, and you just watch the ship thing go into her stomach and right through her. And that's when the mom in front of us leapt across to try and cover her daughter's eyes. Because, again, watching it in a cartoon, yeah, it's traumatic, yeah, it's intense, but it's cartoons. This feels real world, and so I can see where these two moments could be a little troubling.
Yeah.
And, again, they're so juxtaposed to the rest of the movie, which is very kid-friendly.
Yeah. I didn't really have an issue with that. My biggest issue is just how bad the underwater scenes looked, because obviously they can't film them underwater, but holy cow, were they bad looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very cheesy, very bad.
It feels... My guess is this was also shot during COVID, which may or may not have really played too much of a role, but it really felt just like they didn't consult the visual effects people, did not give them time to do the effects properly, and just rushed this movie out. And so I don't know if it was like, oh, they needed fewer people on set because of COVID, so they didn't have a supervisor on set, or what the reasoning is. But yeah, it was rough, and I feel for the artists.
Yeah. And Jodie Benson also has a little cameo in this. She played the original voice of Ariel, and that was cute for me.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What would you rate this one out of 10?
In terms of the live action remakes, I would give it like an 8, because, you know, all of them have been very poor. In terms of movies, like, would I watch it again, my own personal rating, I'd give it maybe a 6.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar. Out of the ranking of the live actions, it's easily the best. So I'll, again, give it kind of like an 8. It could be better. I think will be better ones in the future. But this one's pretty commendable. In terms of personal movies, 5, maybe 6, because there were some really fun moments. I think actually Awkwafina was really good as Scuttle. I was worried because she's in a lot of stuff now, and some of her stuff is starting to kind of go the way of you're stretched too thin, but I really liked her in this.
Yeah, and I really liked Prince Eric's song. It started, and I went, oh no, this is going to be bad, because Jasmine's song in the live-action Aladdin, like 20 minutes long, so boring. Not the girl who played Jasmine was the best one in that movie, but the song was rough. But Eric's song, I really liked it. I thought he had a very good voice. It was one of the things that made me find him charming. So yeah.
I'm excited to see what whatever his actor's name is and Halle Bailey do next, because I think there's more to come from both of them. But
really
they do a great job in this.
Yep.
All right, that is The Little Mermaid.
Something about you seems different. I can't quite figure it out.
She got legs, you idiot.
All right, thanks for tuning into our podcast this week. Make sure you tune in next week. We put out new episodes every Monday. And make sure you also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Nerd and Normie.
And if you're watching on YouTube, give us like and subscribe. And if you're listening to the audio version, just give it a 5-star review. That really helps us out.
Thank you.